Hello.
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 And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome
And welcome to
Backseat Genius.
to Backseat Genius.
The Backseat Genius.
The Backseat Genius.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, members of the Lorcana community, welcome to the Clubhouse by Backseat Genius. Yes, please. Yes, applaud for us, yes. I am joined by three wonderful members of our team. And before we get into our very first live form content that we're doing here in person together.
Finally.
It has taken a minute. How long have we been talking about doing this?
We've been talking about it for months for sure.
4 or 5 months.
It's definitely been in the works until right now.
And we just we sent messages in Discord today, and now we're here.
Yeah. Spontaneously too.
3
No less.
cameras, 2 mics.
Spontaneously.
The best way.
I'm thrilled to be here. But before we get into our topics for this evening, guys, you guys may have seen The Backseat, which is a podcast that Tomas and Teddy run for Backseat Genius. But based on the fact that we are a local team, we're all local to the western suburbs of Chicago, some of us more southern, some of us closer to the city. But yeehaw, baby. We thought that it only made sense for us to come together and actually do some in-person stuff. And I'm just thrilled that we're here and we're together, and I hope that this continues. Tonight, I want to give a shout out to Supernova Toys and Collectibles, which is the store that we are in. We're here now. This is where we play test. This is where we prepare for our events, our DLCs, our set championships. We have Backseat Genius players here every night of the week almost. This is a fundamental piece of what we're able to do. So let me call over Mr. Zach, one of the owners of Supernova Toys and Collectibles. Do a little shout out, Zach.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. This is our team. Thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely check us out on all socials. They'll be all linked and posted at the bottom. But thank you so much, and good luck on the episode, you guys.
Well, thanks, Zach.
Oh, thank you.
You can see many of Supernova Toys and Collectibles' wonderful wares on the wall behind us and around us, whether it's TCGs, toys, figurines, or collectibles. They have something that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Last thing before we get into it, boys. One of the members of our crew just top 32 DLC Seattle.
Yes, sir.
That's Mr. DQ. DQ.
Yeah,
Behind the camera.
Two
Behind the
D-
camera.
yes,
One.
two.
One is currently here with us behind the camera, and the other one is, well, he's in Seattle.
That's right. That's Hamza Khan, but that is DQ. DQ, congratulations.
Thank you.
Boys, gentlemen, on this first episode of the Clubhouse, I thought that I throw you guys a softball first, okay?
Sure.
Justin, what's your favorite card in Lorcana?
It's an interesting question, actually. I'm an Amber dude. Like, since the game started, I've been an Amber dude. So I'm going to go with Mufasa, 5-drop, Amber, Inkable. That's my favorite card in Lorcana.
2-3-3.
OP. Replaces itself. Yep. That's the one.
We're going to get more into that after you guys give your answers, but yes, let's pass it along. Kiros, what say you?
My favorite card has to be the 2-cost purple Cusco. 1 attack, 2 defense, 1 lore, draws 1 card when it dies.
Is that a common?
It is indeed a common. I'm a fan of the commons, apparently.
It might be an uncommon.
No, it's definitely a
I
common.
think it's common.
It's definitely a common.
It's for sure a common.
I'm telling you right now. It's
That is a
common.
good common.
Yes. 100%.
I'm curious about hearing if it might be better than just a good common in a little bit.
I'll explain it when it comes up.
Thank you for that. I do like that. I like that llama. Johnny?
Short and sweet. We don't talk about Bruno. So it was between that and You Have Forgotten Me, but for reasons that we'll go over, I decided to pick We Don't Talk About Bruno.
That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, I know. It's great because I did not like the card whatsoever. Before Zan's deck list, I just didn't like the card, and I like it for a specific reason, not because I think it's the best. But.
Okay. 3 very different cards, gentlemen. Very different cards. I remember We Don't Talk About Bruno in particular. That was a card that I remember playing in green purple set 3 Bucky meta before I realized that you just couldn't play green purple anymore because Bucky was too good. It was a terrible DLC
And that's
in
where
Chicago.
I did not like the card. I was like, it's trash.
Somebody should have called me and told me. I probably should have listened to you guys. Yeah, you'd pitch it to Diablo, right? This was a shift kind of piece that enabled a bigger strategy. Sometimes you'd play it, sometimes you wouldn't. Okay, now let me go back to this. So, Justin, is Mufasa a good card?
That's a crazy, bro. I'm
You
not
gotta
gonna.
look at me. I'm
Bro, what? That question was
said-
kind of
he
like,
said
bro,
it's
nah,
surprised.
because that question is kind of like, is he though? You know, like that's how I took it. I wouldn't say, yeah. I think Mufasa by himself. Like if you look at the card, right? When you banish this character, you look at the top card. If it's a character, you can play it. That character could be any character that comes out from set 1 to set 20. So whatever that character is, it's hopefully it's not like a 1-drop Stitch or a 1-drop Kita or a Pluto or a Mother Gothel. But I think Mufasa as a card is good. It's just that I hate the fact that you have to build around him 100%. Because if you go if you play like 4 non-characters, it still messes up with the math. So I think Mufasa is a good card, but for the meta, which also defines what a good card is, for example, Bucky was not a good card until set 4. I think Mufasa is not a good card. That's where I'm at.
So you're saying it is, or it is?
It is not a good card because because how the meta is shaped and how many cards we have that facilitates like a non-character deck or a full character deck. I'm sorry.
I gotcha.
The context that requires you to build around it, and that it is not just a card that in a vacuum is a net top card of my deck. Boom, I have another character on the board. But that everything must change in order for this to be ideal.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It has to
and
be
like-
100%. It can't be 97.
No, we can get into that. I'm curious. Yeah.
It adds that secondary ratio where you're not only now thinking about, how many uninkables am I able to play in this deck, but how many non-characters can I play? For example, right now a lot of red, yellow characters that are playing the deck are forced to play Brawl because of Diablo. So with that being said, a lot of them are just not playing Mufasa because is it worth the risk?
Yes.
So it's tough. It adds that extra piece.
Agreed.
Okay. Kiros, is Cusco lost llama?
It's cowardly llama.
That's
He is a coward.
I mean, he is
Possibly, I can't remember. I'm gonna be honest
I've
with
never
you.
seen cowardly. on the card.
Allegedly, his name is
It's a
Cowardly
good
Llama.
point. I think you're actually right. We're gonna have that right up here, guys. So you guys
Somewhere
somewhere
around
back
here.
here.
You'll
we're gonna get that
definitely see it
verified.
somewhere.
Is Cusco a good card?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be frank. I 100% believe this card is good for multiple reasons. Right? It has utility. It has lots of utility. Okay. One, it's inkable. It's a low-cost character that you can play onto, so it's on curve.
Yeah.
It replaces itself when it dies. All right. And majority of the time, at least from my personal experience with the card, I've noticed that majority of my opponents don't ever want to attack into it. So it's gaining value on its own, just sticking to the board, consistently questing for 1, and then when it does ultimately get banished, either through my means of attacking or through them, either by a kill spell or through them challenging, it replaces itself by drawing 1.
Yes.
So I think, honestly, I do think it's really good.
I do see like a recurring theme here, and like we'll talk about this a little bit like as we move forward.
Right.
Both of you guys are talking about a card that replaces itself
Yes.
in the most idealistic sense of it, right? This is not a net zero.
Correct.
This is it is not a net -1 if it just dies to something else. It is
It is at most an even, if not, it could be possibly a +1.
yes.
Possibly.
As long as the cost of the card itself does not
Correct.
hamper the forward motion of the game. I like that.
Yeah.
I love a cantrip card. I know that I played some Cusco Llamas in a Jafar wheel cook thing that I was trying to do.
And to be honest with you, I mean, it's a draw card in the most powerful color in terms of draw engine. Everything that has to do with purple draws. So why wouldn't I want a character that will replace itself by drawing 1 and forcing my opponent to do something to it?
we're going to get into whether or not it's good to Yes, Amethyst is fantastic at that.
Yeah.
But is there a better card for it?
There could always be.
Other things we're going to consider. Thank you for that very much. Johnny,
Yes.
is We Don't Talk About Bruno a good card, man?
This one shocked me. What do we got?
I'm also a
What do
little
we got when
surprised.
we don't talk about
So,
Bruno? Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I
This
was like,
surprised me
okay,
the
go
most.
ahead. What do we
From
got?
what
So
his
look.
card choice was.
It's inkable, which is the easy first thing. It's a song, so you can play it for free, technically.
Yes.
It bounces something back, to your opponent's hand. So that helps prevent, Diablo from drawing sometimes. And if they have no cards in hand, you just banish a card. It becomes Dragonfire.
Super Zeus, yeah.
It becomes a singable Dragonfire. With that being said, Miles, I think this card is terrible, actually. I think it is a bad card. Still to this day, you asked me what my favorite card is, and this diabolical part of my mind, I think, is just like, let's hope that I just destroy your plan. I'll throw back Cusco. Go ahead and have fun with your not draw. And hopefully I don't discard the Cusco because it's not good enough to me want to discard that.
What's that sheep's name from Nick Wilde's movie? What was that?
I don't know her name, but I know exactly.
Clearwater, whatever. Bellwater.
I don't know if I saw that movie, and I don't know if
Okay,
Disney's going to
'cause
arrest me for that.
This isn't a trivia show.
No, I'm saying like that kind of how it felt to me. Like
We got tricked. We were
like,
duped.
Yeah, we got
Yes,
tricked.
yes.
Then all of a sudden you spin on me. I'm like, whoa.
True.
Yeah.
Well,
That is true.
What I heard right there, Johnny, though, right, was that like you recognize that the fail state of a card can often be so bad that it makes its success rate almost like what if I like discard their 3-drop because I have to with my Sing, and then they drop a card that was uninkable that was a brick in their hand anyway, right? The downside of it is maybe
Right.
not the greatest.
And maybe it's really great for everyone else because if I'm playing Justin, for example, and I'm at 7 ink about to be at Sisu to wipe his board, he's going to get the Sisu out of my hand after he plays it, where I'll get the one jump ahead.
Right.
When they're at 23 ink because of Stone Dragon. So maybe it's personal experience, but at the end of the day, like I said, it might just be a diabolical part of my mind that's just kind of like...
The high roll. You guys are looking for the high roll, what I hear.
Can't wait to see what I got out of your hand.
Well, them two are definitely on the high roll perspective.
Yes.
I am not.
I think it's very, very interesting, right? Because I relate to that, because every time we don't talk about Bruno's my Big Ursula or Big Clarabelle on Green Purple, shout out Artabax and Earlmeister, we are still here. We are still here. They get my big shift target. Happens every time. And then I'm left with the Clarabelle or the Ursula in my hand. Not always the worst, but I feel it.
It's not horrible. I said it was horrible. There will be a card that comes out in the very near future that immediately makes it unplayable.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
We talked about a lot of different things there. When I asked about is that card a good thing, we talked about inkability. I heard card is not good contextually because it creates a deck building situation where we are stymied, we are withheld by the constraints of the fail state. Like when we flip over the brawl, and that's going to the bottom, and now we paid 5 for a 3/3 that quested for 2, and it got 2 lore. Not the worst situation, but that's not a winning game, is it? No.
Never is.
We heard about a card that was not on face in Cusco, amazing, but almost always replaced itself. And we talked about a green removal spell that is not a Dragonfire, but it can be. Can be a Dragonfire, a singable one. The reason why we get into this, guys, is that I think so often we have members of our community that fall in love with cards, and they love a particular card. But it might not be the right card for the time. It might not be contextually good in a certain matchup. So the big question for today, man, is what is it that makes a card good? I saw you guys go through these gymnastics in your head, too, trying to defend these things, same as I would. My favorite card, by the way, is 5-drop Cogsworth. Fell in love with him in Blue Steel.
Interesting.
Love him because he facilitated the Whole New World Sing plan to sort of further the general Blue Steel agenda. In a different situation, could be your floor general in the same way that Flynn Rider or Lyle is, right? We turret up. We might tap, but very rarely. We're going to hang out here. And we're not tapping unless we're singing Grab or we're singing Whole New World. But I can think of a million reasons why it's not the greatest. So I want to open that up. Justin, what do you think makes a good card in Lorcana?
I think a good card is subjective to the meta. I want to say like I gave an example earlier, like Diablo, until set 4 was like an okay card. Actually, one of our Chicago members who made the green steel deck like from scratch, Zero Skater, yeah.
Mr. John.
Mr. John, yeah.
John.
He built that on
He's the one who
Pixelborn. He
built
was
it,
the
yeah.
one that built that on Pixelborn and went all the way to first rank. Yeah, he is jacked. He was the one who believed in Bucky first that I know.
He was
I personally
the one true believer of Bucky.
one true believer of Bucky.
When everyone else, it was
Set 2.
It was set 2
It
when
was set
Bucky
2.
came out.
Right.
Yeah.
So Bucky as a card at that time was annoying, but it was bearable because you couldn't really. It doesn't really discard. It doesn't really discard until like turn 4, which is like Jafar. I don't know if I had Jafar at that time. Okay,
Dreadnought,
yes, Dreadnought and then Beast on 5. So it doesn't really like the one discard doesn't have that much impact on turn 4 and then 5, but it was still pretty strong. But until set 4 where Diablo came out, which made Bucky such an OP card because you can turn 2 Bucky and then Diablo and then turn 3 another Diablo and then turn 4 Dreadnought and then Beast or something like that. Yeah.
So what you were saying is that a good card is not always something that will jump out and smack you.
Right. Definitely like Lucky Dimes also like it elevated us like until someone played it and they were like you can actually quest for 9 with Tamatoa.
Give me Justin a criteria that we might use. So like when we don't talk about Bruno, for example. Kuzco, I think, is a little bit easier of a case because it's a 2-drop. If it's sitting in your hand,
It draws. Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. And we can
Drawing's never bad. Yeah, for sure.
And on the downside of we don't talk about Bruno is I have no singer. They have a bunch of cards in their hand.
Sure.
But like, what is it about any given card that you think? Like, give me one criteria that you think is a big piece of goodness.
I think personally, it's meta dependent, honestly. But I'll give you a card that I know that when I saw it, it was a good card and it proven itself to be a good card.
Yeah.
Regardless of the meta, it was Pete, games referee. Is that his name? So
That
Pete,
card we knew for a fact it was going to be
as soon as it came out,
as soon
right?
As the card was announced.
That card's good, but I'll explain why it's good. Because for two things, it stopped a card that doesn't just it isn't like specific to a deck. It stops a card that every deck ran. So like that, which is an action. So action is also a song, which at that time, especially, I mean, even now, Steel Song is like a good deck to run. So like the fact that you have Pete to like stop songs and action, which every deck runs, makes that card like really good. So I think I want to say, if the card has a good matchup or like spread,
It's impact.
Impact.
Like, it was almost
Yeah.
like Pete was printed, so to speak, in response to something. And as soon as we saw it,
so
we
Diablo
said,
don't die. Got it. Yeah.
like
On 3.
it was almost like stapled to its forehead.
Yeah, for sure. So I think what makes Pete good is that it's a card that will always be good because the card that it touches is a card that everyone plays. So yeah.
Wide applicability.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. That's the one. That's the
Okay.
one.
Kiros, what makes a card good, man?
I feel that question's very opinionated from player to player personally. Because for one example, we're going to use Zero Skater in this example again because it's very true. I didn't believe that Bucky was a very good card at all, to be honest with you. I think the card was very limited to what it was for. Where Zero Skater 100% found it like a diamond in the rough, for sure. He found that card to be extremely useful, was very versatile for him, and then everyone jumped ship once he figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's more so opinion and how your state of mind in terms of any card that you look at, for example,
Yes.
could be in the same boat as Bucky during the release of the card as well.
Allow me to be a little bit more direct about this. Why is Bucky a good card? And let's talk about this just from a let's talk about set 2, set 3 Bucky. Why is playing Bucky not that big of a downside? Why was it good even when there weren't that many Floodborns?
I think the reason why that card in specific was extremely good was because of the fact that it was a low-cost character that had Ward, that was, at the time, kind of hard to reach. The only card that you could honestly touch that card with was either Grab Your Sword or Tinkerbell at that time, during set 2 and set 3. So there was not really enough resources within the game or within the sets that we currently had at that time to make that card, I guess, reachable, which made the card viable and good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in general, if we're going to use that perspective in terms of cards, I think it's more so, I'm going to have to agree with Justin here. I think it's very based on the sets that we're currently in, how the meta shapes up, and that's the problem too. The sets in general, or not the sets in general, but the meta in general shapes almost on a weekly basis. Because everyone comes up with something new. Either someone figured out it during set champs or even just at a local, and people are really experimenting with other cards they never really thought of besides the cookie cutter cards that we thought were already good.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that like a big piece of this is a just like Cusco we were talking about, right? 2-drop uninkable, or sorry, 2-drop inkable card,
inkable.
right? The ability for a card to be actionable in the early game, also be a facilitator. We could say that Cusco is in a way a defensive facilitator in the way that perhaps Bucky is an offensive facilitator, right? In the event that, I mean, I don't really know how often we're inking Bucky unless we have like the quadruple Bucky no Floodborn hand.
There was always chances where you ink the card, but I do agree with what you're saying so far. Absolutely.
Yeah. This card's downside was pretty minor.
Yes.
Given the potential of its upside.
100%.
I like that. Justin, what's up, dude? Sorry.
I'm just gonna add one more thing. It's that one of the things that just popped in my brain for a good card. Cards that when you play, they have instant impact on the board. Not a card that you play and then you pass and then it does something next turn, but a card that you play and has an impact right as soon as you play it. That also to me is a good card.
Instant impact.
Sure.
Yes.
I think just real quick to brief over the Bucky thing, I don't think it actually was as good. What I do think was the impact during set 2 and 3, the specific question you asked, when there weren't as many Floodborns, was people didn't know how to react to it. John came up with this deck that worked with Bucky. However, when you figured out, all we need to do is just draw and not play cards until we get to a position where we can just progress the game. Because they're not progressing the game, they're not turning Prince John, they're not turning Bucky. It became strong with Diablo because of the ability to Diablo shift and play Aladdin on the same turn, and then every turn subsequently being able to play a Floodborn, get rid of your opponent's hand immediately.
3 for 1 on turn 2.
Exactly. Or play a double Bucky and you can still play Diablo because you just discard an action. So that's when Bucky became too strong.
A menace.
For me, I would say a big factor, just to go over the initial question of what makes a card good.
Yeah.
A big part for me is the plus minus effect of it, which is what I mean is like that has to do with card advantage, which is in part like Cusco with that's a +1, or with Bucky specifically is a -1. With those two in particular, I think there's a lot that go into it. Like Bucky, for example, is only cost 2 and is inkable and has ward, and then you have the subsequential plays with Bucky that go along with it, just make it really strong.
Yeah.
With Cusco, it's all the stuff that I don't have to go over again, but John mentioned just the ability of making your opponent scared to attack because it's simply a +1, and they're going to draw next turn, so it's almost like a +2, but it is a +1. It replaces itself.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself, again, it's only a 2 cost, and it's inkable. With all those things combined, make it a good card.
Yes. I do not mean to continue to press you guys about this, but you all did just talk about Bucky. And I think that if I were to ask most people who play Lorcana, what is the best card in your recent memory, I think they all would have said Bucky. So I want to run this through. Probably there could be some contention there, but I would argue oppressive, right? quickfire, another very good card. A very good card. A card that you know to be good.
Shift Diablo, the three drop on Inkable.
Copy. Heroes.
I think it's Emo Beast, aka Sad Beast, the 5-cost Steel Beast that has never left the meta whatsoever the moment it came into play.
Been co-opted by Green Steel now.
100%.
Yes. Johnny, what say you, dude? We don't talk about Bruno.
No, I mean, I think I'll just have to say I don't agree with Kuros, actually. But I do agree with the Diablo.
What was this card?
Sad Beast.
Sad Beast. I think it's a matter of the times. Was it very strong when it first came out? Yes. Did then Medusa come out following that? Yes. And did it kind of immediately impact the I guess the presence of Tragic Beast? 100%. Ice Block even furthers that more. Because the big thing is put him into Cove. Now he's not. You can't Medusa him. He has Ice Block. So it's just the fact of I don't think he is as good. But Diablo, I'll just say the same thing that he said. I can't think of something else
You
really.
think of Diablo?
Yeah.
This card?
Probably Diablo at the moment.
I would argue, right, one thing the reason why I ask this question, right, is that we can all talk. I think the big things we covered with Bucky, right, were a facilitator, an inkable facilitator for a deck that allowed an entire genre, right, of strategy to thrive and to succeed. Huge. The piece about, I think, Diablo is that Diablo is not in and of itself an engine, but it is a complete stream of card advantage that, if left unabated, will end the game. So I think that's a whole other category we're talking about, which is just game enders. Diablo can end a game. So I'm hearing what we're talking about, right? Like, we were talking about higher quality, and I think that a lot of the cards that you guys talked about, right, in double Diablo, jumping off of the table. This card is a one-man value engine. Like, we're going to pitch an action card, or just hardcast it, depending on what we're playing, and we're going to begin to bury our opponent under a mountain of card advantage. If you do not have an answer, you will lose this game. I'm going to draw every time you draw. We can't keep up. I wanted to talk about a card that I think is very strong for a very different reason, and kind of on the other side of the table.
Sure. I'm listening.
So I want to take you guys to Sherwood Forest.
What this man says,
Sherwood Forest, dude. Yeah. Sir Hiss, the aggravated asp. 3-1.
You know the surname is also crazy.
Do you know
the Muffin Man?
Do you know how I became the 275th best Lorcana player in the world, Jonathan?
I don't know. Are you?
Sir Hiss.
This man.
Sir Hiss.
Said something else.
So, like, when I think about, like, a good card, apologize for the brag.
Humble brag is crazy.
Playing green-purple, like, for a long time, right? A huge piece of that deck is a very 2-drop slot. So, in the most recent, like, the last tournament I played, I was unable to go to Seattle, but in Vegas, right, we had Bonsai, the 3-2, 2-drop that quested for 2. We had Ursula Deceiver, and then we had we had Sir Hiss. All those 2-drops played totally different roles in that deck, and that was green-purple's thing. You needed the right 2-drop for the time. Against the red-blue decks and the aggro decks, you wanted Bonsai. If you were playing against any deck that had songs, like Steel Song, like Justin over here for the last 2 sets, you were keeping your Ursula Deceivers. If you were playing against red-purple or red-blue, you kept Sir Hiss. If you were playing against neither of those decks, you just inked him. Cards like Sir Hiss, for me, are the good cards that get unsung, I think, in this game. A card that is excellent where it's great, and that is inked where he's not. Can you guys think about cards that you play in your decks where not an all-star, not a fantastic card, but adaptable, flexible to the point where we don't have to worry about it if we draw it? Talk to me.
2-cost Cusco. Just saying. 2-cost Cusco. That's all I gotta say.
Lucky Dime.
What are you? You can't make that. When are you not playing 2-drop Cusco?
I'm not worried about it though.
And hear from Justin here for a second.
Okay. I'll come back to you. I want to say for Amber Steel specifically, it's probably the 2-drop Ursula. I don't know her name.
Vanessa?
Vanessa, yeah, it is Vanessa. Good in terms of it's the stats, right? The stats and the cards that she sings are very impactful. So it's hard to get rid of her, but sometimes nobody cares about her. But then a lot of the times she's the one that carries a lot of the steel matchups.
Because we gotta get to Zeus, right?
Right, that too. It's a good card that she sings, but yeah.
Yes, I love. Yeah, facilitates but isn't essential.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, follow.
So, for me, I think it's an easy answer is Popsicle. You just draw 1 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's good early. You want it on turn 1. If you have it on turn 10, you could play everything else for 9. So having it is not a burden.
Mm-hmm.
You're almost not inking it unless you're not seeing Flaversham. Then depending on if you have an item or not. And hey, it's heal for 2 if you really need it. It's something that Tamatoa can bring back when he's on the board. Flav is not nearly as good without it, but you also you put it. I almost argue you put it in the deck regardless if Hiram's in there. It's just that much better when Hiram's in there. Maybe you put Develop or something, but yeah. And if you're kind of a freak like J-Bomb and play Grand Pabby for a set, you gain lore off of it. A good freak. He's obviously very good.
He's a crazy gamer.
To play that is crazy. So, but yeah. Anyway, I would probably say Popsicle's a good one. And if we're talking about, I guess it's not an unsung.
It's a functional piece. It is an essential piece of the engine. Like, this deck would not operate without Popsicle as it exists.
Would not be nearly as good. It would still be probably good.
But people aren't always like beating their chest about their Popsicles after they Maleficent or Tamatoa you for $1 million. Yes.
Sure.
I follow. Kiros, you got one? I guess you already said it.
I did say it. 2-cost Cusco. That card is way too adaptable. Adaptable. Absolutely. Beep.
Flexibility.
It's flexibility. I love drawing the card late game. I love drawing the card early game, even mid game. The card. I personally think the card is extremely good.
Yes.
But that's just because I think it's very adaptable.
I think, honestly, this is my hidden agenda for this entire session. Was I also agree, man, that I think flexibility and a card's ability to just adapt to the moment is so important in this game. We have no sideboards. Like, we have no way to meaningfully change our game plan in between games. So our cards need to be able to pivot as we do.
Can you look me deep in my eyes when I say
Look at him.
Flynn Rider? Very excellent in times it is great and inkable when it's not.
So good when it's great.
So the card is so terrible. I will preach it to the winds that I think the card is horrible.
Bro, you would not have said that before this
Necessary?
burn deck came out, though.
Hold on. I'm
I
gonna
wrong?
stop you right here because in the beginning, even at the beginning of set 5, I thought fucking Flynn, excuse my language, but Flynn I thought was a terrible card, personally. Go ahead. Go ahead. I will die on this hill.
I will die on this hill.
I'm
not gonna have a long debate because we've talked about this before already outside of this session. But I think I don't deny that Cusco is a good card. Cusco is a good card. I just personally don't think it's better than Flynn Rider and the red purple decks. That's all I have.
I don't think I would agree with that argument. I think we're going to table this for perhaps another session.
Again,
The Flynn Rider versus.
I will die on this hill. Flynn
I
Rider
would love
is
to hear the
terrible.
Cusco Flynn Rider debate.
I will always have this debate.
Chat.
There is always a
Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube,
100%.
if you guys are interested in hearing that conversation, we would love to hear it. We would love to see you there.
I personally
Chat.
hate the card.
So as we come to our last section of the night, and thank you guys for all of that, because I think that evaluating cards is such an important thing to do, and what I'm hearing is that there are at least 9 different ways that we can evaluate a card's goodness. Context matters. We even go back to the Mufasa that we were talking about, right? That like within a particular metagame and within enough supporting cards, the supporting cast can enable it and allow it to flourish. Kuzco in a deck that needs draw and needs cards that can maybe get a little bit of questing in and also do a little bit of hanging back. Very important as well.
Hey, don't laugh at my card, man.
Sometimes I can't tell what Justin is laughing at.
Yeah, I know.
Hope it's not me. Our last questions of the night, gentlemen, are actually on your phones. There are 3 new cards from Set 6, Azurite Sea, that are coming out here on November 15th. And I thought that we'd bring up some of them right now and use some of the things that we just talked about to discuss. Is this a good card? The first one we're going to talk about is The Islands I Pulled from the Sea, guys. It's a Ruby, 3-casting, uninkable song. Search your deck for a location card. Reveal that card to all players. Put that card in your hand. Shuffle your deck. No. Yeah, no, please. So, initial thoughts.
Yeah, I want to say it's a good card because we have if Jim Hawkins is not a printed card currently, I don't think this card is playable. But since Jim Hawkins is such a card that everyone wanted to be good for like so long already, I feel like it's about time. Because the problem with Jim Hawkins is that you needed Jim Hawkins and a location. But with this card coming out, you can just have Jim Hawkins and this song along with the locations that, because sometimes you were on curve, and sometimes you were forced to play like bad locations just to add up the numbers so that you could draw the locations with Jim Hawkins. But now you don't need to like play the bad locations, you just play Jim Hawkins in this one. So I think it's a good card.
Do you think, Justin, that, and we'll give this to Quiroz here in a second, do you think that this opens up a toolbox possibility for these decks where the tutor effect of this is relevant? RLS Galleon, great card. Do you want to play more than 2? Probably not. What do you think about the possibility of this card opening up specific locations for specific situations, not always Galleon, potentially still Hawkins?
I think it's actually such a good card to be printed at a time where we do have some good locations already printed out. So, but the locations weren't like as impactful because you had to draw them, right? And a lot of times the uninkable locations like RLS Legacy is one of the really strong like locations, but you just couldn't play 4. It was just really hard to play 4, and then if you had it in hand, you kind of had to play it. But this time, like, you have this card, so I think to that question, I think it does open up a lot of like not just the RLS Legacy Jim Hawkins. It could be like the Fix It Felix, like just the whole Sugar Rush people type of location build, some kind of location build, the one that just recently topped the 28 location deck. You really think that Amber Seal would run 28 locations if it had this? If it was like an Amber Ruby location? But yeah, I think it would definitely open up.
Killer. Quiroz, what do you think, man? Islands I Pulled from the Sea.
Honestly, I think the card is not great, but it's also not bad either. If anything, I find it more in the middle. I think it's more tutored for those niche decks that people were trying to play in terms for location based.
Yeah.
But I don't think it can be played in every deck that includes Ruby in it. I think personally, even though the card is fantastic because it's our second full tutor card.
Next to Abuelita, right? Madrigal?
No, she's not a true tutor in comparison to the Merlin Shift.
She's top there.
Yeah,
Yes.
she puts it on top in comparison to the Merlin Shift, which says add it to your hand, shuffle the deck. So it's our second card that fully tutors to add it straight to the hand. I personally don't think the card is that fantastic, but I have obviously been wrong before.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think you have to be very specific to how your deck functions to make that card specifically even relevant.
I like it. I think as I hear you talk about that, you mentioned a couple of things about what makes a good card. I think a song is just, in and of itself, better than average, oftentimes, at least in its consideration, given that it's a card that does not need to be cast with ink, right? That it is rampable.
Yeah.
It's something that we can utilize our existing resources for. However, the shell that it might live in might not currently exist.
It probably won't survive. It probably will be seen a lot early within the set once the set comes out.
Yeah.
But I think the card will die down in the middle of the set, and then it'll probably have some kind of resurgence at the end of it.
Fair. I like that. Johnnie, what say you, dude?
I don't see it being that good. I think at most maybe it's like a 2 of in a deck. I don't honestly believe that this card would have been overpowered if it was inkable. I think it still would have been well balanced. But as it is right now, I almost feel like you have to play a combination of a song deck, or like a song location deck for it to matter. Like, you want to play Ariel to find this card because it's very specific. You need things to stay on the board because you don't really want to just play it like hardcast it on 3. I feel like that's almost a waste of the turn because if we're talking about combining it with Jim Hawkins, which is what's going to make it the strongest, you're still waiting an extra turn in order to be able to do that, which gives an extra turn for if discard is still a thing. Who knows? I think it really depends on where the meta is at. Yeah, I think it is a card that, like I said, at most is a 2 of, but also it would be strongest if no one considers this a deck. And someone pulls it out at like a DLC randomly, and no one saw it coming, and no one saw a location deck. Like, it's like out there, everyone's thinking like red, yellow locations or red, purple locations. If someone pulls out like a red, blue, like ramp location deck somehow that takes form, then this could be really strong. But I think at the given moment, I can't see it being that playable.
I hear what you guys are saying. I think that we're all into a similar vein here. That like the quality of the card, it seems, in the average Ruby deck that would be worrying about locations. Where we're talking about Queen's Castle, we're talking about Library, Arliss Legacy in some cases, a bit predictable. Like, this deck can win without those cards. Do we really need to commit spaces to go tutor something specific? I myself thought about Ariel's Grotto, the Sapphire. If you have a item and a location in play, this gains 3 lore per turn, right? Almost sort of like a back pocket, oops, gotcha. Now I have this on board, and that's going to give me 3.
Oops, gotcha. I like that.
Yeah. Like, do we have space for that in 60 cards? Probably not. Does Hamza have space for it in 72?
For sure we'll make
76.
72 to 76. We got it.
Add 4 more. Add 4 more.
Yes.
Okay, so keep your eyes out for Islands I Pulled from the Sea. So, card 2, which currently only exists in French, so excuse my pronunciation. Soumettez-vous à mes volontés. Submit to my will.
That 7 very
cost.
good.
Oh,
If
merci
you
bien.
just said it and didn't act like you knew French,
Yeah.
I would literally think you spoke French.
Well, thank you so much. I do not. I have no idea what these words mean, but it's in English on top of the card. I got bailed out. Submit to my will, dude. A picture of Jafar, a 7-cast action, not a song. Very important to bring up here.
And uninkable.
Uninkable. Each opponent discards their entire hand. Each opponent.
Bad. No, I think it's a bad card. Because it's 7 is far. You can argue with me all day that you can ramp into 7. I think the earliest you can play this card is probably turn. I want to say the genie is a shift 6. Shift 6 or 5 to set 1 genie. The shift one. It's a you
Play free action.
Sure, yeah.
you play an action for free. So 6. So turn 4 if you were playing Tipo, and then how far I'll go, and then you shift to that
But
the
it's not
genie.
even a song, so it doesn't matter.
It's an action. You can play it in action.
can play
He plays an
one.
action
Oh,
for
is
free.
that what it does?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, so it plays an action for free.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even if that's like even if turn 6 is or turn 4 is or I'm sorry, turn 5 was the earliest turn you can play this. It's not good enough because like if you play this in your deck at all, and you see this outside of that specific turn, I think it's terrible, and it's uninkable, and it's too far.
Can I just mention this is a card that comes across at first glance of the deck that you're playing this in. You're kind of supposed to already be there before this card comes up. So, for example, this is
What deck is that you're imagining?
All right, like this card. Let's talk about like green steel right now.
Yeah.
The purpose by 7, you don't want your opponent to have cards anyway, or they're down to 1 or 2.
Certainly, yes.
How strong is a card that's going to make you take up your entire 7 turn, which a lot of times you're stalling to get to in the decks that you're playing discard.
Yes.
You don't need to get to 7. But when you get there, you're using your entire turn to get rid of 1 or 2, or I guess in the case where you weren't able to discard,
Right.
you get to that point, which you probably have lost, I'm assuming, or at least you're very close to already. So that's why for me it's not bad, because it's just what you would call like a win more card.
Okay. Copy that.
Yeah.
Kuros?
I have to agree with Justin. I think the card is bad.
Yeah.
Personally, I honestly think it's a little too slow, even for what in any deck that you're trying to play it in. It's slow. It's 7 costs. So even if you're playing green red, right? You're trying to play Robin Hood. You can even play it off of Robin Hood.
Allow me to provide just a contrasting opinion here, but I think we can agree that this is a card that is only going to exist, I think, in a deck. And Johnny took it to green steel. That is not the first deck I thought about when I saw this.
Right. You thought about probably green blue because of the amount of ramp that it has
Yeah,
and the discard potential that's in
right.
it.
But I think that the back to the whole conversation we've had, right, about what is goodness, is adaptability, is inkability, does this fit into multiple game plans? This card does not do a lot of those things. However,
there's a lot, and that's the thing.
I do see
There's
that-
a lot of cards that are uninkable that are
they're still
very
good,
much
right. But they're not seven
fantastic.
casters, right? I would have loved to play Milo Thatch in green, like the shift, 7-drop Milo Thatch in green purple would have been a house.
A pipe dream is what you're saying.
Well, it's because it's uninkable.
It's a pipe dream.
But here's the thing: green purple doesn't have Tipo or Fishbone Quill to ink away cards that you can't use, right? Like if we're talking about, and I'm not going to say that like the Clarabelle blue deck was fantastic, but I think one of the biggest axes that deck lost on was that red blue was still going to go over the top of it and beat it. I think that this card is a tool for non-steel or ruby ramp decks, and I think it could be a massive edge as a 2-of in some of those matchups. Do you have enough? Do you have enough ink from your hand cards to make it even viable? Probably not. Huge effect. Huge effect.
I'm glad that one of us believes in the card.
I didn't say belief. I
Do
saw
you
a
believe in it?
glimmer of hope. I think a glimmer of hope.
That's
It's a
called
unique
belief.
effect.
It's called belief.
Just got my eyes open.
Okay.
Last card.
You do already have a card that does that, by the way.
100%.
Bell.
Yeah.
Bell.
That puts pressure on the board, but it can be destroyed. But Bell is
The
a card
Archer,
that's...
the
Oh,
Archer.
you're already doing it. Archer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Archer.
you're already
The
doing
green
that game
Archer
plan.
on
You
the
can
front.
get it
Oh, I
on
see
3,
what you're
quest for
saying.
3.
Yeah.
It does have to be challenged, obviously, so it's different. But
I have to do my homework on the current blue green tech.
That's all right.
I'm behind. Guys, the last card in this, and maybe I served us up a softball here. Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit. Guys, this is a 2-casting character. Uninkable is a 2/1 that quests for 2. Base in Sapphire. Favorable chance. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an item card, you may put that card into play for free, and it is exerted. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck.
Can I start with this? Oh
Go
my
ahead,
god.
go ahead.
Okay. So, off topic, just 2 seconds. These are it's one of the cards that does something when you ink something. It does something. So, that was cool. I was looking for the blue card that does that, or the sapphire card that does that. But it's cool.
Like Mama Odie.
No, like the mini that came out.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously Basil from the green ones. I think 2. Now there was a time where Sapphire struggled with 2 because turn 2 2 cost cards. Turn 2 was such a struggle for Sapphire because we didn't have any good ones outside of One Jump Ahead. But now that we have Tipo, potentially Chicha, even the new card, I don't know what it's called, the Azurite whatever card, the action card that it basically acts as a action bell version where you ink a extra inkable from hand. No, there's an Azurite card that
new card.
Yeah, it's like a bell effect, the 4-cost bell. Where
It actually gives you an extra ink, and
can-
then you draw 1 card.
and then draw 1 card. So those are like, I want to say stronger, but maybe you don't play this card on 2. I could be wrong, but looking at the text, I mean, blue itself, item decks, I mean, we've seen them with Maurice Workshop, and they've actually worked from like Europe. They've found success there for some reason, and then
You're a
mean,
huge fan of the 5-drop Donald Duck.
which one, the ramp one?
Yes.
See the 3/4
Yeah, yeah.
Oswald likes him.
Right. So I feel like I don't think it's a bad card. My imagination has not taken me to sapphire items. So I want to say it's a good card, but just not on turn 2.
Yep. I think it's very fair.
I think the card is fair. I think on the contrary from what Justin said, I think you could be able to play this card onto, considering that you're going to be inking on turn 3. You have a ramp card technically also on turn 3. You have many ways to ramp to look at the top card. You could always, I'm not sure in Magic if it's like Thoughtseize or something. I can't remember really the name of the card. You look at the top card, and then if it works, you play it. If not, put it to the bottom. I know there's a card like that in Magic. It is Thoughtseize or something like that.
Well, no, Thought's is a hand disruption spell, but yeah.
But yeah, something around that range.
We'll pull it up. Yeah,
Sure.
we'll pull it up.
I don't think the card is bad at all. I think the one issue that I have with the card alone, it's its stat line. The fact that it's 2 strength, 1 willpower, has the same stat line as Chicha, which people have found very limited success, and I say that with the most, I guess, leniency. I think personally, I think it's okay.
Yes.
At most. Hopefully, someone will come up with the card.
Key difference being that it's not about the second card you ink per turn. It is the just whenever
Every time
you ink a card.
ink. So
Yes.
I don't think the
But
card
key
is
distinction. Good.
the best, but I definitely don't think it's the worst.
Fair enough. Johnny, take us home.
It's tough because it just gets hit by so many things. It's uninkable. It's just. I think the one good thing about this, if you're looking at it, it's good in an item deck. You know, like you might be deciding between Chicha or this. Would you rather have the draw when you ink extra, or would you rather just be able to always look at the top card if it's an item, just on one ink, or if you ink twice, you see it twice.
Yeah.
I think you're hoping to hit dime in certain situations with this and get to play it for free. I think that's really what it is. I think you could do a combination of playing, like I always try to say, like red blue, maybe play that Audrey Ramirez card. If you have her on the board already with Ward, you play Oswald and ink, you get dime, you get the quest and ready dime on that very same turn.
Definitely some goofy stuff.
Things can happen.
Jonathan's talking about goofy. Johnny, I see the vision for this card. I think that the item deck in Sapphire is right there. I think that the amazing thing about this is that as soon as we have a Fishbone Quill item, by the way, on the board, imagine playing a popsicle, drawing, inking for your turn, flipping over your Fishbone Quill on 3. Didn't have to cast that, by the way. Didn't have to cast that. Ink, top card, like the nut draw scenario is so huge with Oswald. And I think that because we've been so addicted to Flaversham Popsicle for so long in Sapphire, I think there's a huge blind spot to the ability for Sapphire to play a different angled game. Anybody ever read Scrooge's Top Hat before?
Yeah, not
The one where a banished character gets to play.
No. It is a one left.
Oh yeah.
This is not the episode for all of that, but I think that Oswald is one of my personal favorite cards in this set. And with that, guys, we're out of time. Recapping, I think we talked about a lot of things that can make a card good, can make a card bad. I know I learned a lot tonight. I got schooled a couple times.
Feel love in the air tonight.
In the air tonight, oh Lord. Can we harmonize on this next back pocket? Yes.
Here we go.
I'm so sorry, Phil Collins. We love you. Guys, this was the first episode of the Clubhouse. My name is Miles.
Justin.
Jonathan.
John.
And we will see you guys next week. Cheers.
Deuces.